Hello, AP Environmental Science students. Today we are going to look at Chapter 1, which is Environmental Problems, Their Causes, and Sustainability. In Chapter 1, you're going to see a lot of overlap with Chapter 25 because these are both the opening and the closing chapters of this textbook. So, like I said, you're going to see a lot of common vocab words that we just saw in the last chapter that we studied. Specifically, this screencast is going to look at Chapter 1, Section 1, and all of today's notes are based off of Living in the Environment, the 16th edition by Miller and Spoolman. Chapter 1.1 is what is an environmentally sustainable society. So the main ideas of this section is our lives and economies depend on energy from the sun, which is solar capital, and on natural resources and natural services, or natural capital, provided by the earth. It also covers that living sustainably means living off the Earth's natural income without depleting or degrading the natural capital that supplies it. So we've got to know some basics when it comes to vocab. Some of these might be kind of obvious because you guys are in an AP science class. But the first vocab word that we're going to define is environment. So an environment is everything around us. It includes living and non-living things with which we interact, and it includes all those relationships that connect us. So when you were in biology, you talked about, you had a unit on ecology. So that's all the feeding relationships, the relationships like mutualism and commensalism and predator-prey. So all of that is encompassed within the environment. Environmental science is an interdisciplinary science that connects information and ideas from natural sciences like ecology, biology, geology, and chemistry, social sciences like geography, politics, and economics, and humanities like ethics and philosophy. So I've told you guys in class that this first unit's going to feel a little more social science-y, and that's why, because environmental science includes social sciences and humanities. So if we take a look at this figure, this is straight out of the book, all of these sub-sciences are included in environmental science. So biology, ecology, chemistry, physics, geology, geography, anthropology, demography, economics, political science, philosophy, and ethics. Lots of things going on when we talk about environmental science. So the goals of environmental scientists are to learn how nature works, how the environment affects us, how we affect the environment, how to deal with environmental problems, and how to live more sustainably. So here's some more essential vocab. So ecology is a key subfield of environmental science that studies how organisms interact with their environment and with each other. Again, when you took biology, whether that was last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, one of your units was ecology at the end of the year where you studied all of those interrelationships between organisms, food webs, food chains, those kind of things. Organisms are living things. Species is a group of organisms with distinctive traits that can mate and produce fertile offspring. And an ecosystem is a set of organisms interacting with one another and with their environment of non-living matter and energy within a defined area or volume. So there are two kind of topics that often get confused: environmentalism versus environmental science. So environmentalism is a social movement to protect the earth. This is practiced more in the political and ethical arenas, where environmental science is based more on the science behind protecting the environment. So what can we do? How can we do it? Why do we need to do it? Is more what environmental science looks at. So again, we're going to talk about sustainability a lot. It is a central theme of this class. So all of our chapters are going to come back to, okay, these are the problems we have. How can we live sustainably, or how can we make this a sustainable resource instead of something we're depleting? So our definition of sustainability is the ability of the Earth's natural system and human cultural system and economies to survive and adapt to changing environmental components indefinitely. So that's kind of a mouthful, but basically it's a really nice way of saying how can humans and the earth get along without humans dying out and us killing the earth in the process. So there are three major components of sustainability. And the first component is that the natural resources and services that keep us and other forms of life alive and support our economy is natural capital. Natural resources are things like materials and energy in nature that are essential or useful to humans, and that includes renewable and non-renewable resources. We're going to talk about renewable and non-renewable resources more in this chapter during section 1.3. Natural services are functions of nature, so things like purifying our water through the water cycle, pollination, and reproduction of plants by bees. A vital natural service is something like nutrient cycling. So it's the circulation of chemicals necessary for life from the environment to living things, then back to the environment. So these cycles include the carbon cycle, water cycle, nitrogen cycle, sulfur cycle, and phosphorus cycle. We are going to learn about each of these cycles a lot more in-depthly during our second unit. Natural capital is supported by solar capital, and solar capital is just energy from the sun. If we take away solar capital, all of our natural capital collapses, which makes sense. You guys learned about photosynthesis in biology. We know we need the sun to keep plants alive. If we don't have plants, all of us die. We need solar capital. Our second sustainability component is the fact that humans degrade natural capital. Humans use non-renewable resources faster than nature can renew them. So, for example, this cartoon kind of demonstrates deforestation, or the depletion of oceans is another thing. And this cartoon kind of shows it ironically, but it's actually kind of true. We've got a nice, pretty forest. We cut down the forest, we build something, and it ends up being a tree museum because we don't have any trees left because we've cut them all down. Our last component is that environmental scientists are constantly searching for solutions to environmental problems. Our solutions are limited by current technologies and political processes, and a lot of the solutions that our scientists come up with require government laws and regulations. So, for example, hey, we're depleting our fisheries. This species is close to going extinct. That means we have to put forth a law that says, hey, there's a fishing ban or a fishing restriction on this species, and then you have to enforce them. So often solutions involve some sort of conflict or trade-off or compromises. Obviously, if fishing is good for our economy, but all of a sudden we're saying, hey, we have to restrict our fishing because of this environment, there's going to be some issues there, especially when you're talking to the actual fishermen who make their living off of catching those fish and selling them. So there's a lot of give and take, a lot of compromising that goes on with environmental science and finding those solutions to our problems. The ultimate goal that most environmental scientists have is to build an environmentally sustainable society, which means that it's going to meet the current and future basic resource needs of its people in a just manner without compromising future generations. So this is the goal. This is what everybody's looking to try and accomplish without kind of stepping on everybody's toes, without destroying our lifestyle, and without destroying the environment.